This is the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at www.thepmpodcast.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to episode number 73. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 28th of July 2007. Nice to have you with us. Having myself worked on projects in several countries, I am excited to bring to you today an interview with Randy Magdalujo. Randy works for a financial services provider in the USA and was given the opportunity to work as the IT lead on a project in Europe. This project brought together a team from 3 continents. We are discussing the project itself, its cultural and communications challenges, the success factors, and what Randy did to overcome his personal culture shock. As usual, we also have our helpful resources that complement this interview, and we give away a license to the project management methodology of our sponsor, mpmm.com. Before we get started, there is one announcement. I would like to say thank you to Kay Pitts. Kay was generous enough to give a donation to the Project Management Podcast. Highly appreciated. Thank you very much, Kay. If you too would like to donate, then you can find the donation button in the left-hand navigation of our newly designed website. Your donations will be used towards our new recording equipment. As a matter of fact, today's episode was recorded on our new Zoom H4 digital recorder, and about half of the cost was paid for by our past donors and their generous gifts. So, thank you, Kay, and thank you everyone else. Today's episode is sponsored by mpmm.com. Want to gain total project management success? By using the MPMM project management methodology, you can gain immediate access to all of the processes, tools, and templates you need to manage projects. Packed with more than 1,000 tasks, charts, and practical examples, you can create project deliverables faster and more easily, saving you time and money. If you want to gain total project management success, then download a free trial now from www.mpmm.com. So much for our sponsor message this week. But wait, there is more from our sponsor today, because MPMM is giving away one free license of their project management methodology, which is worth $695. They have just released MPMM version 4, which helps users to create and customize methodologies for projects. And they tell me that they think that there is no other project management quite like it on the market. And if you would like to first try it out, you can download a free trial version from their website. But to participate in this giveaway, all that you need to do is send an email to me. Send it to mpmm@thepmpodcast.com. In the subject line, put MPMM, and in the body, put your first name, last name, and the town and the country that you are writing from. The deadline for this email is Wednesday, August 22nd, 2007. But we all know that if we don't send emails like that off right away, we'll forget. At least I do. So go ahead and send the email right now. And of course, your email address will be deleted after the drawing. So you're not signing up for any free newsletters or anything by writing to that email address. Again, the email address is mpmm@thepmpodcast.com. The first helpful resource that I would like to mention is something for everyone out there who is preparing for the PMP exam. The website I'd like to recommend is preparepm.com. The site is owned by Naveen Gabrani, who passed his PMP exam in 2004 and then decided to put all the information that he had learned to good use and create a website for people who are also preparing to take the PMP exam. His focus is on delivering the important information to you, and that is very much reflected in the simple user interface. You click in the left-hand navigation and you instantly get the info that you are looking for. No sign-up, no overpowering advertisements, just good PMP information. Naveen offers two main sections on the site: tutorials and exam sample questions. Each tutorial covers one of the knowledge areas in the PMBOK guide, like scope or risk, and he brings all the important facts onto one page. And in regards to the sample questions, he offers one mock exam with 60 questions, and then he also gives you additional questions for each of the knowledge areas. In total, I'd say you get about 120 good questions for free on this website. Again, the URL is preparepm.com and comes with my recommendations for PMP aspirants. The second helpful resource is supporting today's interview with Randy Magdaleno. The website is called Managing Projects Across Borders, and it is put up by the School of Management, which is part of the University of Texas at Dallas. The website is not an informational website. Instead, it is targeted at project managers who wish to take a workshop on the topic of managing projects across borders. The university is offering these workshops divided into 3 tracks. Track 1 is managing international projects. Track 2 is negotiating and working with international customers, suppliers, and partners. And Track 3 talks about leading international project organizations. But what caught my eye weren't really the workshops, but one of the 2 articles that they provide. The one that I'm talking about is called Women Working Across Borders: When Gender is More Challenging Than Geography. This is a short 2-page article, an interesting read that shows us how difficult it can be for a woman to lead projects in our male-dominated society. Our third and final helpful resource is an insightful article by Lionel LaRoche, PhD, titled Managing Cross-Cultural Differences in International Projects. In this article, Lionel touches upon all the key factors that you need to talk about: communication, approaches to problem solving, cross-cultural differences, avoiding cross-cultural pitfalls, breaking into foreign markets, or taking advantage of the cultural diversity that you have on your project. He doesn't go all too deep into all of this, but he gives you the basic understanding of what you need to take into consideration when managing cross-cultural projects. It's a great starter and also a good refresher for all those among us who think that we have all the important facts and behaviors on cross-cultural projects up our sleeves. If you would like to look at these helpful resources in detail, then please surf over to our website, thepmpodcast.com, and click on the helpful resources that you find at the bottom of today's episode, which is episode 73. And now let's head right into our main topic. A little while back, I saw a presentation given by Randy Magdaleno on one of his project assignments. And this assignment was full of important project management lessons learned. Randy works as a vice president in the financial services industry here in the USA. His background is in IT project management, and his career has taken him through various industries. The lessons learned that he presented were about the successful management of a large international project in the financial industry, its challenges and success factors, but also on a more personal level about the cultural differences in work attitudes that he found while working as an expatriate on this project. You can probably tell his presentation fascinated me, and I just had to bring him onto the program. So, enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcasts feature interview. Today with Randy Magdaleno, Vice President at a large global financial services firm.
Hello, Randy, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We're absolutely happy to have you here today.
Glad to be here.
And we want to learn more today about a project from a large investment management company that you've been working on. The first thing that interests me is the project was out of Europe. And you were selected, nevertheless, to be part of that project, even though you're based out of the company here in the United States. Why were you selected?
I think I was given this opportunity for two explicit reasons. One, I was part of the original team that performed the due diligence on this client in Europe 3 years ago. So I was already familiar with the deal, the key players, and the objectives. The second reason was I had prior related experience with IT project management in this segment of the industry. But implicitly, I believe the senior management felt that having diversity on the project team would be valuable. For one thing, I have not spent my entire career in this same company. I've worked in consulting as well as in a high-tech startup. And on the flip side, this project was a great experience for me as it allowed my colleagues and me to learn from one another, to exchange ideas, and develop synergies. So these are very important for our company as we globalize going forward.
So tell us a little bit more about the project. What was it all about? We're not going into specifics, company names and all of that, but what is it generally about?
Sure. The client is a large institutional investment manager with over 485 billion euro, or about $642 billion in assets under management as of March of 2007. And they've got offices in Paris, London, and Cologne. The goal of the project is to provide outsourcing services to this client in the form of middle office investment outsourcing, fund accounting, performance measurement, and analytics. To do this, we had to integrate our company's strategic technologies with those of our client without disrupting their business. Therefore, the project was broken up into 5 phases, and it's still in progress.
So that I understand this right, your company is the outsourcer, and you're taking business from your customer, and you will then perform the business for that customer. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So you mentioned there are 5 phases, right? It's still going on. What are those 5 phases? Maybe a little high-level overview.
Sure. The first phase involved laying out the workflow and transaction management piece that is the foundation for all of the other technologies on which we will build. The second phase involved including new fund accounting systems that were tailored for the markets in France and Germany, as well as including that client's sub-advisors or other investment managers to whom they've delegated responsibility over some or all of their funds. The third phase involved us implementing our proprietary record-keeping systems. And the fourth was our performance measurement and analytics. And the fifth phase largely involves processing over-the-counter derivatives using our strategic enterprise systems.
It sounds like it's a very large IT project, but it also sounds like there is an enormous amount of organizational change going on. Is that also part of the focus of the team that was working on this for you, or did someone else take care of the whole organizational aspect, the culture change in the company and that?
Absolutely. I think everybody on the project had responsibility to assist with the change management in that area. For one thing, the organization that we had partnered with and the staff that we took on board are from different cultures than our company. Our company is headquartered in the United States, but are expanding to be a more globalized company. So there was a lot of culture exchange happening in both directions. So folks who came from the U.S. working on the project, either on the ground or remotely over the phone, had to adapt to the ways of working of our local colleagues, and vice versa as well. So I think it was a two-way street. There was a lot of learning going on, which is important, particularly for us as we grow to become a more global company.
So if I understood you correctly, then there was not only the work that your company took over, but there were also people that were integrated into your company.
That's right. And so part of the change involved not just dealing with the cultural differences, but also with the change in attitude from being simply the back office support to being the client service organization of our company whose objective is to provide these services to clients. So it went from being, more of a support role to more of a service mentality.
It must be an enormous change for someone. On Friday you work as an employee of the company. On Monday you come back and you're sitting probably at your same desk, and suddenly you're an external service provider, and you're giving a service to the people who are your friends and whom you've worked with for years, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Must be very difficult. What was your position on the project?
I had many responsibilities. The two primary ones were the phase lead for the IT phase lead for phase one, which meant that I was responsible for coordinating the IT deliverables that came from the US, the UK, Mumbai, and working with the overall primary project manager to ensure delivery of the project as planned. I also worked with the client on several technology initiatives where we had touch points between their firm and ours. And secondly, I was involved with phase two as the liaison between our company, the client, and the client's sub-advisors, the investment managers to whom they've delegated some or all of their funds to.
Are all 5 phases finished, or are they still ongoing?
No, they're still ongoing. In fact, there's some overlap. So this is a multi-year project that will continue to go for several more years.
Mm-hmm. So we've already seen there must have been challenges on the cultural level with integrating the people from your customer now into your own organization. What other challenges did you face on the project?
We had many simultaneous events and initiatives. We had challenges becoming one company, and then post-conversion go-live, we had some stabilization issues. So I'll take each of those one by one. Mm-hmm. We couldn't just stop our clients' business in order for us to make a change. They wouldn't have liked that. Not at all. So we constantly had moving targets and had to keep pace with their ongoing business, which involved relationship changes between their own banks, acquisitions of their own that we had to consider as potential integration targets for our operations. And we, at the same time, moved the staff that we had acquired out of the client's building and into our own building that became our headquarters in that particular country. And so all of those different events occurring at the same time needed to be managed and juggled along with our own project initiatives. Becoming one company was also a major challenge because, again, we had people coming from our client, and they needed to be integrated, not just technically in terms of logging on, getting email, system access, and becoming familiar with policies, but also in terms of uniting everybody in 3 different countries and making them feel welcome. Again, part of our challenge when globalizing is to include different points of view and different cultures and different perspectives, and not just try to impose those which we, who came from the U.S. or even our company, which is based in, the Northeast of the United States, try to impose those values on others.
How much pushback did you get from the people? Was there also a lot of turnover? Did people leave?
I think there was some resistance in general to, the changes in that regard. I can't say for certain what drove some people to leave the firm, but I think turnover was planned and expected for a number of different reasons, not just because of the culture change. But we definitely had to overcome the resistance to change, which I've learned personally is different, generally speaking, depending upon where you go. what people's backgrounds are and what their propensity is to take on risk. And so overcoming that and first of all, recognizing that and accepting that, and then trying to find ways to overcome that were the softer challenges that I'd say we had to overcome.
Yeah. How was that done? Was there a particular communications plan? I assume there were lots of all hands-on meetings. There must have been a newsletter that went out, constant information so that these people were always involved. Is that sort of the way you went?
That did develop over the course of my time there. In fact, it was decided to hire a communications manager who would liaise between the local staff, the project team, and external parties. So we worked together, we being folks on the project, worked together with that liaison to try to bridge the gap between the local staff and those who were already part of the company. That became very valuable when policies were rolled out, changes were requested of people, and I'd use the term requested specifically and not imposed because we wanted to take into consideration the desire for one particular office's groups need to be included in decisions, which I think is fair to say with most folks, but in some cases you can impose policy and people will generally accept it. In other cases, folks will want to question that, have a say about it, and consider all the other options and feel like they were included in part of the decision. So in those types of policy decisions, we sought the counsel of that communications manager and wanted to include the best interest of the people that we work with.
So what about then the post-conversion stabilization that you talked about? What were the challenges there?
I think they were unique to our company in terms of the scale of the project and the technology requirements, the demands on our systems. So we learned a lot there in terms of rolling out a system globally to accommodate people in different time zones with a certain amount of demand over a period of time during the day. So we managed to deal with the issues over a few weeks after the conversion, and fortunately with the relationship that we had with the client, we were able to work together and get those issues worked out. But I think going through those issues and identifying the various problems that did exist helped us in the long run to better prepare for a lot of these exceptions, which were unique to that particular event in time.
Just to give us some sort of a scale, how many people did you actually integrate from your customer?
I'd say approximately 400 to 500 over 3 different sites.
Wow, that's very large. All right, so you had all these challenges, the culture, the simultaneous events, becoming one company, the post-conversion stabilization. But at some point, it was done. You were successful. You implemented your phases. What would you say were the success factors?
2 of them, really. I'd say the first one is people. And the second one is a good relationship with the client. Regarding people, we had retained some real talent from the client, and I think they were really significant wins on our side because they brought with them inherent knowledge of the client systems, gave us guidance on what was possible, what was not possible, and also had relationships with folks in the client's organization that we could leverage. We had people from the outside that had brought different experiences with them and a different perspective as well. And those folks were able to, help us move forward significantly. And we also had good people who came over from within the company who had prior experience doing this before, had a number of years working with the firm, which was also important because knowing how we work as a large organization is just as important when you're trying to affect change. And so, where, leverage can be applied, you know how the politics of the organization work, and you know the procedures and, you know, history of why things are the way they are. Regarding a good relationship with the client, this is a very, very important point. In other cases, we've worked with clients that didn't view this arrangement as a partnership. It was more like it was very much a very formal business relationship with financial implications of things that went wrong. Okay. In this case, our relationship with the client was very much a partnership, and they were with us on decisions and were supportive through challenges that we faced.
So partnership versus penalty.
Absolutely.
So to speak.
Yeah.
You also went to Europe for some time, and you stayed in Europe, right? How long did you stay in Europe during the project?
For this contract, I was an expatriate for 1 year. Prior to that, I had been assigned there for 3 months to assist with the due diligence. So I had been to Europe before and had been there on personal travels as well.
Right. Did you experience culture shock as you went over there for this particular project? And
from the aspect of working on a daily basis with colleagues, I did experience that culture shock, yes. Again, because I had come from different kinds of backgrounds, again, from consulting, from high-tech startups to where I am now. You know, I'd seen different environments before, but this was a shock in the sense that it took me some time to get used to, you know, dealing with the cultural differences of the people with whom I was that I was surrounded with. But then it also took some time for me to get used to working with the bigness of our own company. Mm-hmm. So there were two forms of culture shock there for me. It just so happened, coincidentally, I was in another country when I experienced one of them.
Okay. How did you overcome, in particular, the cultural work differences? I mean, let's maybe take a step back. Can you give us an example what it was and how you dealt with it?
Absolutely. In terms of language, I didn't speak the native language very well. I did make attempts, which I think earned me some favor. But in those cases where I was working with folks who were less comfortable speaking in English, then I would bring a colleague along who spoke the native language. Another culture difference that I recognized was, again, the willingness or unwillingness to take risk. And so I think that caused a lot of apprehension, fear, resistance, a need to want to discuss every detailed point rather than, you know, dealing with the 80% and, you know, overcoming the 20% as you go.
As you go along, yes.
I think just demonstrating the willingness to proceed or having the right attitude of moving forward and working through the problems as and when they come might have helped with that. But that was definitely a challenge right there.
Coming back to the United States, you were still on the project and you were still working with the teams back in Europe. How did you work with the time difference? How did you deal with this? Because, I mean, it's either you getting up early in the morning or they're staying late. How did you do that?
I would get up pretty early. And fortunately, in this day and age, we have a lot of technology that can assist with the differences in time and space. Mm-hmm. So I would often take calls from home or as I'm driving to work. And for them, you know, they would have to stay later. When I was over there, in fact, much of my day was stretched out because I would deal with my client or have meetings with local folks in Europe all day long and then deal with folks on the East Coast of the U.S. and the West Coast of the U.S., which is 9 hours behind, until late hours of the evening. So coming back here, I just shifted my schedule a little bit, and it really isn't that bad.
Would you do it again?
I would.
What would you do differently?
I think I would not quit my MBA program. Just kidding. Actually, I had to take a 1 year sabbatical because I was in the middle of of a program in order to go there. And so my primary reason for returning was to finish that program. However, free of that constraint, I would definitely go overseas again to do an assignment. I would want to do one in a different role, though. But I really enjoyed living in another country and waking up in an environment that is different to that which I'm used to. Taking public transportation, walking everywhere, seeing people of different ethnicities, hearing different languages, and experiencing the art and culture and lifestyle of a different country are definitely things that I think I would like to do more on a long-term basis next time.
To sum it up, what would you say is your number one learning experience and also tip that you can give to others who are currently, thinking about being an expat and working abroad on a project? Anything that stands out in your view?
Yeah, on a couple of levels related to not just being an expat, but also being a project manager, is to have a plan, obviously, but then also be open to serendipity or events that could occur that are outside of your control. So that speaks more towards people who are considering overseas assignments, because going to another country where you're not familiar with the systems, you don't speak the language, you don't have access to the things that you otherwise took for granted, requires one to be open, to be adaptable, and to find ways to overcome.
Thank you so much for your time so far. We're now moving forward to our final 10 questions. Same 10 questions that we ask every project manager here in the program. You ready for this?
Sure.
All right, let's get started. Number 1, what was your favorite project?
See, my favorite project in my experience was one that I did in New York City, and it was a startup, actually. I really enjoyed working with a bunch of really smart and talented kids who are highly motivated, creative, and well-rounded. Just the energy of being around those folks was inspiring, despite the long hours and the hard work and the frequent travel, cold weather. I really enjoyed my colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Number 2, what project would you like to have managed?
I would have liked to have managed the iPod or iPhone development.
Oh.
All the way from the conceptual, creative design to the business plan, marketing, execution. That would have been very exciting.
Number 3, what is your favorite project management book?
The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Why that? It doesn't sound like it applies to project management.
Actually, I just really haven't read any project management books. No, I have. But I just thought it would be a different take on, accomplishing goals and overcoming adversity.
Yeah, sometimes project management can be a type of war.
Be it against others or against your own systems.
Number 4, what is the topic of the next seminar that you're planning to attend?
It'd probably be around what I'm currently focusing on, which is over-the-counter derivatives.
Number 5, what is the best way to make a project fail?
A lack of communication.
Number 6, how do you like to celebrate a successful project?
Honestly, I really enjoy recognizing and rewarding people who were key contributors and turning the spotlight on those folks.
Number 7, in your projects, where do you focus most of your attention in order to be successful?
Communication.
In line with number 5. Number 8, if you weren't a project manager, what would you like to be?
I always wanted to be a fighter pilot, but my vision isn't quite up to spec.
Number 9, what is the one thing that a project manager cannot live without?
A good team.
And finally, number 10, the oldest question in project management. What is more important in a project manager? Is it project management expertise or industry expertise?
I'm going to say it's got to be a combination of both. Because I think if one is deficient in the other, then there are ways to overcome that deficiency. So if you don't have a lot of industry skills, but you have the ability to reach out to those who do and find ways to make up for that then you can be successful. Likewise, if you have a lot of industry experience, that's great, but you're lacking in organization and project management, then there are ways to get some training and to build up those skills as well. So I'm going to have to go with both.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time today. Enjoyed speaking to you.
Thank you.
And that was our interview with Randy Magdalujo on his experiences on working on a large international project, the challenges, success factors, and the cultural differences he experienced. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. Let me remind you that you will find a link to the book that Randy recommended in the helpful resources section of today's episode. In fact, we even have a books page dedicated to all the recommendations of all previous interview guests. Happy reading! As always, you can find us on the web at thepmpodcast.com. And if you are a project manager who would like to become a PMP, you can visit pmprepcast.com. In this sister podcast, we teach you concepts, tools, and techniques that you need to know in order to pass the PMP exam. Please send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com, and when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. It's not the total work hours on your project that count. It's what you do in those hours. Until next time.